All right, I am told we are live. Things look like they're going all right on this end. Today I'm using a new software, so there's going to be a little bit of a little bit of a learning curve, and that's all right. I was saying just the other day in the community post, I forget who it was that commented, but I was going to be trying some new things while streaming this week, specifically because generally when everyone's on vacation, they have better things to do than to be on YouTube. So Uh, I'll still be coming on to keep people company, but it's a really great time for me to go and try doing some new things or things that might not go 100% correct. Since I'm in here, let me verify that. Ooh, timeout. We're gonna correct that. That's corrected now. That's why we do these tests. And that was the next thing I was going to check out. Hello, Amy. I wanted to see. I'm going to go post a comment right here and then verify that it appeared on YouTube. It's all very simple little things. Uh, but today we're going to have a good time. There was the very first time that I created the character. What's going on, James? Papa Bones. Um, I had an idea and I put together the episode and I put it out there. And it didn't last very long because Uh, well, say I was a little gun shy. Hey, how you doing, Gary Matrix videos and Sandy? Goodness, we've got a number of people today. Very nice. All right, so when I first created the Papa Bones character, I did not know how he was going to be received, and so I was very I don't know what the right word would be. I was gentle, less I was less wild and out of control. The character that you guys know is very different from the very first time that he came out there because he was a little, I guess, camera shy would be, you know, to be honest. So that video was pulled down, and today I'm actually going to put it up. It was actually a video on Bloody Mary. So I'm going to go put that on today. We're going to play the Bloody Mary video, the Polybius video, and a Slenderman video that also got pulled down due to technical difficulties with YouTube. YouTube, for whatever reason, when I would go and click on it, it would show like 42 seconds of the video, and it was like a random 42 seconds too. And no matter how I edited it or whatever, it just would not go. So we're gonna go and get that up today like that, which is pretty cool. Anyway, so like I said, it's just a test. Feel free to post in the chat. I am here. I'm gonna try talking a little bit probably at the end of the video to see if I can talk over it because again, this is brand new software. I don't know how it's going to work, uh, but we're going to get this testing done so that way we are up and ready to have a really good time next year. But without further ado, this is Papa Bones' very first appearance, telling the story about Bloody Mary.
Bloody Mary 3, Bloody Mary 2, Bloody Mary 1.
We've all heard the stories. Someone goes into a dark bathroom and says Bloody Mary 3 times, summoning Mary's ghost. Maybe you'll see her behind you. Maybe she'll yell at you, scratch you, gouge your eyes out. Some say she might even kill you. But where did the legend come from? Hundreds of years ago, deep in the woods of Pennsylvania, there was a place so quiet that even the animals were silent.
There lived Mary. They called her a kind medicine woman. To her face. But in secret, young children would call her the old hag. Wives would tell their husbands about how much they dreaded her whenever they had to make a trip to see her. And occasionally, the town drunk would call her Bloody Mary, the witch. Now, Mary had been such a fixture of the woods that no one, not even the oldest women in town, could remember a time when she wasn't there. It seemed like she'd always been there. One year, the little girls in the town started going missing. The entire town searched. They searched every home, every barn. They searched the woods. Some even went to Mary to ask if she'd seen any of the girls in the woods near her house. Mary insisted she hadn't seen them. She also reminded the townspeople of the dangers of the woods. The woods were no place for little girls. Mary's warning about the creatures that lived in the woods was relayed to the townspeople, along with an updated description of Mary. The old medicine woman was looking much healthier, her skin more supple, her hands less frail, her eyes less cloudy. For some, this change was enough to blame her for the missing children, but many of the townspeople noted she might have found a way to make medicine for her ailments. She was, after all, a medicine woman. The townspeople were rightfully afraid. They kept a close eye on their children, worried more of them would disappear. One night, the miller's wife had a toothache and could not sleep. She sat in the kitchen awake and in pain. She was surprised to see her daughter casually walking outside of their home. Her daughter appeared to be in a trance. But when she tried to gently get her daughter back inside, her daughter refused. She said she had to follow the sounds of the angels, and that she was being called. The miller's wife started yelling for the miller. She ended up waking the entire town. Soon a small crowd was outside, watching in awe as the miller's daughter continued walking towards the woods, paying no attention to her parents' words. Now, the town huntsman had a keen eye. He looked out to where the young girl was headed and saw a strange glow at the edge of the woods. Not yellow like a candle, but a sick green color. He quietly pointed out the anomaly to a farmer, and the two of them ran off to see what was going on. When they got closer, it was easy to see it was the witch Bloody Mary. There she was, glowing sickly green while chanting some ancient words they'd never heard before. The huntsman, fearing he would not be able to overwhelm the witch unless he surprised her, quickly drew his dagger and stabbed her. The farmer with him immediately took off his silver wedding ring and held it against the witch to render her demons weak. The two of them started pulling her towards the town while shouting for help, as the witch appeared to get a little stronger with every step they took, in spite of the wounds the huntsman inflicted and the farmer's silver being pressed against her. The townspeople ran off into the field to meet them, fearing this would be their only chance. They started building a fire. They tied Bloody Mary up and threw her on the woodpile. But the very second the silver wasn't against her skin, she gave a loud cry and started to laugh.
You fools! You will never rid yourselves of me. If anyone would dare say my name in front of a mirror, I will send my spirit through the void, reach through the rift, and have my revenge for what you have done here.
Then, Bloody Mary let out one final loud cry and died. No other children went missing after that. For years, the townspeople would hardly say a word about what happened that night, afraid that they might accidentally talk about the witch in front of a mirror, accidentally summoning her back.
Oh, excuse me. I was just writing a wanted ad for that poor town. They're gonna need a new medicine woman. How's this sound? Ahem. Wanted. One medicine woman for a small town.
We fired the last one.
This is me practicing talking when the yelling is happening. I don't know if this can be heard, but I feel like the software should do it. Also, everyone don't look at Cindy being late. That's important. Okay. That actually went much smoother than I thought it would. We're going to go push right into Polybius. If you don't know, Polybius is actually, if you don't know, you're going to find out, right? But it's a very cool urban legend, has some roots in, government conspiracies and Men in Black and that sort of thing. So very cool. I'm going to try to smoothly transition. Fantastic. I can be heard over the yelling. Oh, that's so convenient. This is going to be excellent. I've got a lot of stuff planned. Also, I didn't know that I could put up comments so easily, Cindy. That was, in fact, a joke, but I had to know what happened if I pushed that button. And then I didn't know that it wouldn't go down unless I pushed another button. I was waiting for it to get off the screen, and it didn't. So, just so you know, that's what happened there. We're good, though.
When I was 12,
When he was
video
12.
games were
Alright,
my
let me stop.
favorite. I couldn't get enough. I was at the arcade every chance I got. Then, one night, everything changed. I lived in Portland, Oregon with my mom and older brother. We lived a few blocks from the arcade, so I would go with my friend Lenny, and sometimes my brother Jason would join us. It was a Tuesday night. Me and Lenny headed down to the arcade. It was pretty empty. Lenny went over to one of his favorites and started playing. I headed towards Pac-Man. That's when I noticed a new game was added. It was called Polybius. I thought I'd give it a try. It was sort of a shooter puzzle game. Pretty fun. I played for maybe 15 minutes and started to get a little bit of a headache. I quit and went over to another game. But while playing, I kept thinking about that new game and felt I had to beat the score. As I was thinking this, Lenny called me over. "Hey, I beat your old score, loser," he gloated. I ran over to win back the top score. While playing, out of the corner of my eye, I saw another kid go over to Polybius. I tried a few times but couldn't beat Lenny's new score. Lenny wanted to try the new game, so he went and stood behind the kid at Polybius. He was taking forever. Like he didn't see there were other kids wanting a turn. "Hey, we're next, man." He ignored me, just kept playing. Lenny decided it wasn't worth waiting for anymore. "Let's just play something else. I'll try another time." Lenny was easygoing like that. We went off and played some other games that I don't even remember right now. Alls I kept thinking about was how I really wanted to play Polybius again. I was drawn to it, but that damn kid wouldn't get off. It got late, and we went home. That night I had very strange dreams. I could see the shapes from the game around me, and a strange man wearing a suit walking towards me. A couple of days went by, and I wanted to go to the arcade. I called Lenny, but he couldn't go, so I went by myself. I got there, and there was a line at Polybius. Oh, come on. I got in line, and after what felt like forever, it was finally my turn. I put my coin in and began to play. The next thing I knew, the guy who worked there was pulling me away from the game. He was carrying on about how he's told us we gotta take turns or something. Honestly, I didn't really listen. I felt weird, really tired, and foggy. I looked around the arcade. There were so many games without a line. Games that would normally have lines. I could have gone to any of them, but something made me go back in line for Polybius. It took so long. By the time I was next in line, it was already past my curfew. I didn't care. I started to play again. It felt like I had only started to play when I heard my brother calling me. "Danny, let's go. It's almost 9. Mom's pissed." He grabbed my arm and practically dragged me off the game. On the way home, I was trying to remember my score, but I couldn't. I couldn't remember anything, and my head was pounding. When we got home, my mom started yelling about being home by 7. But she looked weird. I just nodded my head and went to my room. As I laid down, I heard the music from the game. Images flashed in and out. I felt heavy and tired. The next day I went to school. I felt exhausted, like I didn't sleep one bit. Lenny was talking to me, but I couldn't understand him. It was like I couldn't focus. I just kept thinking about that game. I told him we should go right after school. He said he couldn't go before doing his homework. Lenny was smart like that. Still, for all of his smarts, a good game is hard to resist. "Come on, just one game," Lenny agreed. When we got there, these 2 men were working on the game. They didn't look like normal repairmen. They had suits on. They had the machine plugged into another small black box, and after a few minutes, they left. They really gave me the creeps. The one guy looked at me as he walked by. His face was abnormally pale, and his eyes were dark and empty.
But none of that mattered to me. I just wanted to get back to the game. I began to play as Lenny watched, and soon a line formed behind me. The next thing I remember doing is waking up in the city by an old building. I was confused and began walking home. It was getting dark. My head was pounding. Where was Lenny? How did I get here? The sounds of the city were wrong too, and I kept seeing these flashes of color. I saw one of the men in black at a street corner, watching me. What was going on? I began to run, hearing my heart pound in my head. I made it to my neighborhood and could even see my house when one of the men appeared in front of me. I don't know if it was fear, exhaustion, or if I was hit by something, but I passed out. I woke up in my bed. My mom must have found me passed out in the yard. That game. It's gotta be something with that game. I laid there, trying to rationalize what happened when my mom came in. She was pissed. She accused me of doing drugs. I told her I wasn't, that I just kept getting these bad headaches. My mom calmed down. She believed me, but I was still grounded for not being home by 7. I wasn't allowed to go to the arcade for the weekend. Over the weekend, the headaches and hallucinations subsided, but I still thought about the game, even though I knew, for whatever reason, it was the cause. That Monday I saw Lenny at school, and he started talking to me about Polybius. I told him not to play that game, but it was already too late. He said he already had. He played it for hours yesterday, and planned on going after school. I warned him it made me sick somehow. There's something wrong with it. He laughed at me and said, it's just a game, and that I probably caught a bug. No matter what I said, he wouldn't listen. I just finished being grounded. My mom would expect me to go straight home after school. I didn't. I went with Lenny to the arcade. When we got there, the place was almost empty, and the game Polybius was gone. Lenny ran over to the empty spot where Polybius used to stand. What the hell? Maybe it's getting repaired. He was desperate. I was glad it was gone, but part of me was hoping it was getting repaired. When we left and started walking home, on the way, I thought I saw one of those men sitting on a bench by the park. I quickly looked away. I still don't know if he was really there or not. After a few weeks, I felt normal. No more nightmares, no more headaches. The game never came back. I didn't go back to the arcade for months. Lenny eventually convinced me to go back. Lenny was good at talking like that. Decades later, I still think about that game. And sometimes, I still get nightmares.
You might not know it, but I've learned a lot by playing video games. One of the first lessons I've learned came from Tetris. If you fit in, you're gonna disappear. So make sure you stay unique. And that brings me to this week's top comment. This week's top comment comes from Reddit. Dr. Cuts wrote, "What the f*** is wrong with that skeleton dude?" Good question. So I told him, I'm not sure. I think I didn't get enough love as a child. He stood quiet after that. So I guess that means this week's top commenter is me. Oh, nice. Hey guys, if you enjoyed the video, please like and leave a comment below. Otherwise it'll be game over for me!
All All right, this is going smooth as eggs. We're doing it. Now, this next part, this is what happens when someone doesn't prepare for something, which is kind of what happened here. I had two of these things queued up, and this last one is not. So, let's see. If I had to go and do this on the fly, what would I do? I would say things. I would want to buffer what was going on so no one could tell that I didn't know what I was doing for a moment. I'd say things like Slenderman. That's a popular urban legend. Heard about that guy? Oh, and then I don't have to do it anymore because look, I win.
Slenderman's creation
the
is
best
credited to Eric
disguised.
Knudsen in 2009. But there are accounts that connect to Slenderman that existed hundreds of years before then. You can find stories in ancient folklore about a faceless, pale, thin man that would stalk children. And more recently, there's Men in Black. Men in black suits that look completely normal at first glance. You'd never notice them in a crowd. But if you do get a good look at one, you start to notice anomalies. And the longer you focus on them, the more anomalies you'll notice. Could Slenderman be one of these? His ability to be invisible to those he doesn't want to see him, and visible to those he does, might suggest that he and the Men in Black are using a similar cloaking method. But I'm off topic now, aren't I? This is about that night. The night I saw Slenderman.
Many people can tell when they're being watched. This sixth sense normally helps protect people. But what if a monster was able to use this defense mechanism against a person, driving them to madness? Tonight's cryptid has had many names. The Tall Man, the Thin Man, some call him the Operator. But most people today know him as the Slenderman.
It was 1996. I was 13 years old. It was late, and I was just laying in my bed thinking about baseball when my mind went completely blank. Now, to be fair, I was lying in bed. My mind going blank and me falling asleep was the entire point. But this was different. For starters, I wasn't tired. I felt very awake, but my mind was blank, as if I was tired. Another strange thing was the position I was in. I was on my back. I never slept on my back. Ever. And to make things even more bizarre, I have no idea how or when I switched from lying on my side to my back, but there I was. I began to notice movement in the corner of my room, and then I saw him emerge. Slenderman. He began slowly approaching me, but I didn't move. Not that I couldn't move. I didn't want to. Even though this tall, faceless thing from the shadows was walking towards me, I felt calm. When he got to the foot of my bed, he started stretching his arms out towards me. I should have wondered what he was going to do, or what he wanted, but I just didn't care. I just laid there, calmly, like it was all completely normal. He continued stretching his arms out at me when my mom walked in. For some crazy reason, my mom walking in scared me. All at once, I was covered in sweat and breathing heavily. She ran to me and asked what was wrong. She said she heard me screaming from down the hall. I told her I wasn't screaming and left it at that. I didn't want to tell her about anything I'd seen. Being covered in sweat and telling her I wasn't screaming, she decided to check my temperature, but it was fine, and I looked fine the last time I saw her just before bed. She watched me closely the next day. In the end, my mom decided it must have been the Doritos I ate while watching the baseball game on TV that night. Doritos causing random screaming and sweating in the middle of the night doesn't make much sense, but neither does what really happened. I was 18 years old when this happened. I was working as the art teacher at a sleepaway Christian camp. Because it was a Christian camp, you weren't allowed to date the other staff. If male and female staff were even seen standing too close together, one of the higher-ups would say something. The job lasted from June to August, 3 months, a very long time not to even sit next to a girl. There was, however, one way to get around this rule, a loophole. If you said you were cousins, no one bothered you. I'm not even sure how the loophole existed. By the end of the summer, it seemed everybody had a cousin working at the camp. I spoke to some of the staff that worked there previously, and they said it happens every year. Also, the boy unit leader and the girl unit leader were married and met at camp. Did they also pretend to be cousins at first? The entire thing was ridiculous, but there was a beautiful camp counselor named Hannah, and I asked her to be my camp cousin. It was hard to sync up breaks to see each other. Camp counselors were given 1 2-hour break a day and every other night off, but the only places you were allowed to go at night were common areas: the chapel, the pavilion, and the movie room. Your only opportunity to be alone was to meet up during the day and to walk to the archery range. It was really far from everything else. You had to walk through a path in the woods, then across a field, and then through more woods before you got to it. And if someone happened to find you, you could always say you and your cousin wanted to talk to the archery teacher. One night, Hannah's break overlapped with dinner. This was the chance we'd been waiting for. We figured we could walk to archery and make it back during dinner. No one would notice, and no one should be around because everyone's at dinner. At first, I was really nervous, but the further we got from the mess hall, the more relaxed I got. By the time I could see the field from the woods, I was already holding her hand. We came to the edge of the woods, and all of a sudden I felt her squeeze my hand. I automatically think she must have seen someone, so I simultaneously tried to shake my hand free, prepare my alibi, and look for whoever was around. My hand was not getting free from her grip, and I didn't need my alibi. Standing in the field was what looked like a tall, thin man dressed in black. Everything about it was unnatural. From how tall it was, to how thin it was, just everything. Thinking out loud, I say, "Do you think someone is building a scarecrow?" Before her and I could say anything else, it twisted its body to look at us. That thing, whatever it was, didn't have a face. We took off straight for dinner. The path that led back to the mess hall would bend here and there. We completely ignored the path and ran in a straight line through the woods. We were visibly rattled when we made it. The camp director asked what happened. We told him we were walking by the chapel and saw a 300-pound squirrel. It was the code we used for bear, so the children wouldn't get scared and panic. The maintenance guy went out and looked around the chapel, but obviously didn't find anything. It's not like I could tell them we were at the field together. For the rest of the summer, Hannah and I didn't even try to spend time alone together again.
Wow! You know, they say you'll find things where you least expect them. Kudos to Slenderman! I never thought of looking for him at Camp Jesus! Best hiding place ever! And speaking of the best, it's time for this week's top commenter! This week's top commenter has been a subscriber since before we had 300 subs, and is always up for making some trouble in the comments. She's a great horror babe! Taylor Ray! And her comment from the parody trailer for The Fast and the Furious reads, Love this. So long as there's no killing of animals, it should be a hit. That's not just my bleeding heart speaking either. Statistically, people care a lot more about the animal being killed than humans in films. Maybe they all have bottled water guns, like you would use anyways. Get it? I definitely do get it, and that would be awesome. Maybe the cats can fight the dogs with rolled up newspapers, like there's sword fighting. That was fun to think about. Thank you so much for all your comments and support, Taylor. A few weeks later, after camp was over, and everyone went home, our friend started to go out and look for Slenderman. When his friends asked about what he was doing, he said, "At first I was afraid of him, because he was so tall. But now I really look up to him!"
I am going to have to go and rewatch the playback to see how my volume was and whatnot. 'Cause it's, well, you know, I can't hear myself. That would be craziness. But I do think that this was a complete success. I do thank you all for joining me here today. Great time. Like I said in the comments, I will be doing things like this for the next few days, and this will get me acclimated to using StreamYard software and maybe get me better acquainted with different things that you do. I actually learned a lot today, just putting people's comments on the screen and whatnot. But again, thank you so much. Everyone take good care of yourselves. You are very important. I am going to be signing off now, but this is delayed. So for me, it's the end. For you guys, just say like 150 something. But I'll be in the comments. Listen, to say anything, I'll be there.